When I first got out of college, got my first job, it was okay. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't horrible. But the one thing that was really eye-opening, or that I found within the first few months, was that I could not see myself doing this, just working at a cubicle at a desk for 40 more years. And that is normal. Like, that is what a lot of people think is the normal way of living is, you go to work 20s or so, and then you work 40 years until you're 65. And at that point, hopefully you have enough money to fund your retirement. And the crazy thing is, like, you could be too old, you could have bad health where you can't even travel or, enjoy the money that you've made all of these years. So basically, I started looking for alternatives. Like, I could do this, it's okay, but what are my other options out there? I started looking into side hustles, creating businesses that could make me money, other career paths that maybe would make me more money. Basically, I just researched everything and anything and everything that could potentially get me, out of this like day job where I wouldn't have to work anymore, basically, where I'd become rich magically or whatever. Eventually, I came upon a bunch of articles that led me to reading some personal finance books. And the first one that I read, which I totally recommend, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read it like 2 or 3 times, and then that's short, and it led to other books as well. The follow-up, which is the Cash Flow Quadrant by Rich Dad Poor Dad, and some others as well. That led me to start changing the way that I think about spending money, about investing, and earning more income. And so after consuming so much content over a year, I looked back and I actually saw like I was starting to make these changes. And yes, I mean, they were slow at first, but when I look back over a year, it really did start to, I was spending a lot less money, maybe like $500 or $600 a month than normal. And I was starting to at least trying to build like side hustles, making the effort. I sold my lease and bought an older used car. So ultimately, the idea of retiring early from reading countless books and personal finance articles and blogs, that idea of retiring early was fueling my motivation to spend less and start really taking a close look at my money. So what I want to talk about right now is what is retiring early, or what is the concept? So the basic concept is you have enough assets that fuel or outgrow your expenses per year. So you have this nest egg basically. And the general rule of thumb is, and it's called this concept called 4% withdrawal rate. So from your nest egg, we basically say you can take 4% withdrawal and use that money each year. And the 4% is the way that they come up with that is that basically you're going to have your assets, your nest egg, invested in the stock market, which over a long period of time, has shown us that it's much more than 4% growth, plus also keeping in mind inflation as well. So you can have that safe withdrawal rate at around 4%. So in order to find how many assets that you need, you basically, if you take 4%, you have to times your yearly expenses by 25. So for example, if you want to spend $40,000 in a year, you need, and you multiply that by 25, because that's the 4%, you would need $1 million in assets, investable assets. And if you want 80,000 a year, 2 million. If you want only 20,000 a year, you could retire early with only 500 grand. And so that concept, that idea of this withdrawal rate, really, it was great motivation, because it showed me you don't need to have $10 million or $20 million to retire early. You can, people are retiring with $1 million, which is not easy for sure, but with, if you really track your net worth, you really make good decisions around spending less and earning more, you can get there. So ultimately, this idea of financial freedom, financial independence, retiring early, to me, it is a concept in gaining your freedom back. So like right now, I work, I'm basically I'm a slave to my paycheck. I'm a slave to money. I'm trading in my time for money. And I'm making that decision, and we all, most people do that until you, in this case, hopefully you get to a place where your assets are large enough that they actually work for you. So that is, your assets are actually working because maybe they're getting 8% return on their money. So when you have $1 million in assets, if you gain and you have an 8% return in a year, that's $80,000 that you've just gained, versus an $80,000 income, for example. So yeah, that's the basics around it. Retiring early, this idea of being able to withdraw 4% each year based on your yearly expenses. So, I mean, if you look at this, it's pretty simple. You basically need to either gain a huge amount of assets and have a very large nest egg if you want to spend a good amount of money. Let's say you want to spend $80,000 a year in retirement. You need $2 million of assets. On the flip side, if you want to have call it a lean a lean retirement, or retiring early, you can basically, for $20,000 a year, you could have $500,000 in assets. And there's all like in between the spectrums, like you could semi-retire, so you could still, have a maybe $10,000 income or $20,000 income a year, doing something you really enjoy, while still having a good nest egg for that security. So this was the overview of the concept. Now, getting to that point where you have a big nest egg is obviously the hard part. But at the same time, even just knowing about this concept, at least in my case, it gave me motivation to know, hey, there's something out there, something I can do, be proactive about right now. I can spend my money better. I can try to earn more money, and I can have the meaning behind why I'm trying to earn more, which is to look down the road, longer term. Maybe I don't have kids yet, but like I would love to be able to spend more time with my kids when I'm 35 or 40. And most people can't do that. So yeah, this is the overview. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out my other videos that actually talk more about investing and saving more. And it goes into more detail. So please subscribe. Thanks for joining. I'll see you in the next video.